At the family dinner, my uncles cheered. We're finally cashing out the farm. Everyone clapped and passed around slices of pie. Someone popped open a bottle of champagne. I excused myself, stepped onto the porch, and made one phone call. 5 minutes later, the celebration died mid-sentence. See, 3 months ago, when the county court ordered our family farm into auction, I realized something most people in my family didn't. We were about to lose the last piece of our history. Mom and Dad had been farming that land for 42 years. They raised corn, soybeans, 3 kids, and countless stray animals on that property. When Dad slipped on the barn ladder and blew out both knees, the medical bills swallowed every emergency fund we ever had. Mom tried to keep up with the payments, but legal notices were piling up faster than she could pretend everything was fine. My uncles, Rick and Thomas, saw it differently. They saw dollar signs. Developers will pay top dollar for fertile acreage. Rick had announced over Sunday dinner, poking at a baked potato like it personally owed him money. Thomas nodded eagerly. We'll finally get something out of this family nightmare. Something, funny word, considering they hadn't shoveled a single stall or hauled a bale of hay in decades. I pretended to be neutral. I even told everyone I couldn't attend the auction because I had a conference in Chicago. In reality, I was sitting in my car 2 streets away watching the courthouse steps through binoculars like a deranged wildlife photographer. I'd hired a proxy bidder named Scott. Real estate guy, stiff suit, zero emotional reaction to anything, to raise his paddle at exactly the right moments. Developers circled like vultures. One even bragged loudly on his phone about how many cabins he planned to build once the old farmhouse gets bulldozed. Scott kept his eyes forward, expression blank, paddle up, paddle down, until the hammer dropped. Sold to my proxy bidder for $289,500. Not cheap, but cheaper than losing everything. I drove home quietly. I didn't tell Mom and Dad. They were living with the shame of the foreclosure and the false hope that Uncle Rick would handle negotiations. I figured once dust settled, I'd transfer the deed into a land trust with my parents as beneficiaries. They would never have to lose their home, just never know how close it came. Fast forward to today. We were gathered at my parents' house. Pie plates were stacked. My nephew was playing zombie games on his tablet with the volume way too loud. Rick stood at the head of the table with a thick white envelope. Once the county sends the final disbursement, we'll split the money 3 ways, he declared proudly. Thomas grinned. Finally, something pays off. Dad stared at his hands. Mom refilled water glasses to avoid looking anyone in the eye. Actually, I said, stepping back into the dining room, I need to talk to you all about that. Rick sighed dramatically. If you're here to argue about your cut, don't. The auction was final. What's done is done. That's the problem, I replied, sitting across from him. You're assuming there's money. Thomas frowned. What are you talking about? Developers bid like crazy. We all saw the numbers. I opened the folder I'd brought in from my car. Printed documents, official stamps, signatures, dates. Rick leaned forward, squinting. What is this? He asked slowly. County property transfer records. Auction ledger. Deed assignment to Maple Ridge Land and Trust, LLC. I read aloud. Mom blinked. Who is Maple Ridge? I looked at her gently. Me. Silence. The kind that physically presses against your eardrums. You? Rick choked out. You bought the farm? Thomas sputtered. Dad's head shot up, eyes wide with something between relief and disbelief. I outbid every developer, I continued calmly. And no, there is no disbursement money coming your way. You can't split profits on a sale that never happened. Rick's face went red. You tricked us. You tried to cash out land that wasn't yours to sell, I countered. Land my parents built with their hands while you two showed up twice a year to take photos for Facebook. Thomas opened his mouth, then closed it again. Nephew paused his game just long enough to whisper, holy crap, before turning the volume down. Mom covered her mouth. Dad blinked hard, tears forming. You saved it, he whispered. I nodded. It's going back to you. Once the trust paperwork clears, you'll never have to worry about a developer touching this land again. Rick sank into his chair. Thomas stared at the table. The champagne on the counter suddenly looked more like evidence. So, I said, folding the documents neatly, let's talk about who actually owns this farm.